So the goal today is to create 5 different textures. As I said, you have those texture resources on the Google Classroom. Here's a quick resource that I have. Today I'm going to try out the following. I think I'll try out hatching, scumbling, cross hatching, stippling, and maybe I'll try out the gesture, or actually I really like feathering. Okay. Actually, instead of scumbling, I think I'm going to try out the gesture because I like that one. Some others that you could try are the bracelet, which is the small marks. You can also look at some of the other textures that are shared on those documents, or even come up with your own. We're not going to try shading because we already shaded on some of the exercises, and we're not really using that on the project too much. So I'm assuming many of you have done texture in Art Foundations. The first thing you'll want to do is, put your name on your paper. I guess I don't need my first name here because I'm the teacher, but I'm just going to put it on here. Okay, and then I'm going to, you can either use your paper horizontally or vertically. I'm using it horizontally just for the purpose of this demonstration, but you certainly can use it vertically. I'd say, these should be about 6 inches in length, which is probably, if this is an 11-inch piece of paper, it's probably from here to here, right? So I'm going to start hatching. Hatching is small marks, either a series of 2 or 3. Generally, they go in different directions, but they could go in the same direction. And you're going to start out kind of going dark. And in terms of how thick these should be, like in terms of how wide this way, I'd say, again, about 1 inch. So one way to create a lighter value is obviously to lighten your pencil grip, but another way is to kind of spread the texture out a little bit more too, right? And that can create a lighter value. You may need to go back and either lighten or darken as you go through this. So you're not making any boxes per se, but you're kind of, imagine this is kind of a box, so you want to kind of fill it with your texture. We will be adding texture behind our negative space to create some depth and interest. So as I get to the end here, I'm really lightening up and I'm really spreading out the texture. You certainly could keep it more of it too if you wanted to, but then sometimes it becomes harder to keep it darker. Okay, so there's my hatching from dark to very, very light. So you should be trying 5 different textures out. I'm going to demonstrate other textures. For the other textures, I'm not going to do the entire gradation from dark to light because that would take far too long. So I'm just going to explain how to do the texture. So sorry, not a scumble. Actually, I'll show you scumbling too. So a scumble is a little bit more of a chaotic scribble. So it's kind of going multiple directions, but with consistency. So a scumble is sort of like a scribble that's going in multiple directions, and but it has, kind of similar size marks. So I'm kind of I'm going several different directions with my pencil. So I'm kind of going back and forth and creating these small circles for my scumble. Cross hatching is similar to hatching, but a little bit more concentrated. And I'd like you to label yours when you're doing them too. because then I can see like exactly what you were going for, because I might be grading this and say, I'm not sure what this student was trying to do with their texture. So cross-hatching is like little tic-tac-toe boards kind of thing. And certainly you might have your own way of doing this. So not all cross-hatching has to look exactly like this. Like artists use texture in different ways, and they might have a different version of the way that they hatch or cross-hatch. But it should still be recognizable as cross-hatching. So yours might go a slightly different direction or, follow a certain way. So that is cross-hatching. And again, I'm not going to continue it because I don't want to take too much time. But on your paper, you need to show it getting, around 6 inches of dark to light. The next one is stippling. Stippling is quite time-consuming, but it does have a really kind of beautiful effect. So stippling is basically taking your pencil and creating very small dots just by kind of hitting the paper with your pencil. And you can see how those dots might change if you use your pencil when it's more dull, or if you use it at more, like right now I'm putting it on more of an angle, and the dots get a little bigger and darker. So as you can see, again, the stippling is quite a bit more time consuming because of the tiny marks that it makes. All right, I'm going to scoot over here and show you a few more. Gesturing. So gesture is a lot like scumbling, but instead of going multiple directions like I was in scumbling, gesture is, I still consider this to be kind of a controlled scribble, but this way you're kind of going the same direction. Okay. So you're moving kind of quickly with your pencil. So you're making kind of repetitive circles, like curly cues almost, that are repeated on top of each other. Okay. It tends to be more directional, whereas the scumbling is oftentimes going in many different directions. So there's a close-up of the scumble. Again, sorry, this is really not focusing very well. And then the gesture. Feathering is another one that can be useful, especially if you were, drawing an image and trying to create grass or bark or water or something like that. Feathering in my sample here all goes the same direction, but it could go multiple directions. I'm actually going to have mine go this way. So it's kind of small gestural marks that have some movement to them, and they could go one direction, they could go multiple directions. They have a softness to them. And you could make smaller marks or larger marks, but they have a bit of a curve to them. The last one I'll show you that you might find useful is the bracelet, which is typically a series of marks that get kind of smaller, and it's a bit more controlled than the other ones. I don't honestly think this one's going to be as useful for this project, but you may find that you like it. And again, depending on how you place the bracelets, you may be able to make it work. You are going to get to use a variety of textures on this project, which is why I want you to try out 5 different ones. Okay, and again, each texture you should be trying dark to light. So what I'll do is I'll take a quick photo of this and I will post it to the assignment. I think I'll also post this little resource here too. Okay, so for today's class, I would like everyone to try to work on this. As I said, I'll give you today and then probably sometime on Friday to do it. While you're working on this, I will be